Hello, writers, and welcome back to Spooky Writes. My name's Kemal Onor, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking all about everything bad about writing advice. So, let's head into the storm. Okay, writes. So, one of the big things that's wrong with writing advice is the way that people ask for writing advice. And a lot of people who are asking for writing advice are not asking the right questions, and they're not even wanting the correct answers. A lot of people who are seeking writing advice are people who are looking for shortcuts. They want ways that they want 100% foolproof ways to make their writing better, and it simply doesn't exist because writing doesn't work like this. Writing is an art, writing is a craft, and there is no set of rules that you have to follow 100% of the time, excluding that of the grammar rules. And even then, you have authors throughout the history of time who have broken these rules and completely disregarded grammar. Authors such as Gertrude Stein. And it's one of those things that when people ask for writing advice, they're looking for shortcuts. They're looking for the secret code to make their writing perfect. And again, it just doesn't exist. Writing is a craft, it's a skill, and it's incredibly subjective. It's like any other art form out there. And writing is very much an art form. It's a skill that you can get better at. And just like when you practice painting or any other visual arts, it's very similar in that regard. To the more that you do it, the better and stronger you will get with your skills and your abilities as an author. And so often when people ask for writing advice, oftentimes people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear that it's hard work. They don't want to hear that it takes dedication. They want to be told the secret code. They want to be told if they start their story using this technique or this secret stylistic choice, that all their writing will be perfect. And again, this doesn't exist, but time and time again, people will ask, how do you start a novel? Or they'll say, how do you start a story? I vividly remember in undergrad, I would have fellow students who weren't creative writing majors. They would come up to me and say, how do you start a story, Kemal? As though there's some secret way that you have to start a story, that all good stories start with this. And it doesn't exist, because writing is subjective, and what might work for me isn't going to work for other readers. There's no universal cheat code to writing. There's no universal way that every story will appeal to every single reader in the world. It just doesn't exist, because people are different. We all have different tastes. We all have different things that we look for in the books and the stories that we read. And so sometimes I would give an answer that where I would think about I would give a thoughtful answer. But most of the time people would just be, I could tell when people would be like, I just want a cheat code. I want the shortcut. I don't want to be told you have to read hundreds and hundreds of books. You have to write hundreds and hundreds of bad writing. People want a shortcut. They want a cheat code. They want a way to speed up that process of becoming the best writer that they can. And there is no cheat code. There is no shortcut. There's no way that you can game the system. You can't jump from level 1 all the way to level 1000 as an author. It takes time, it takes commitment and effort, but people are constantly looking for that shortcut, that cheat code. So I remember when people would ask me certain questions like, how do you start a story, Kemal? I would answer with, sometimes I start a story with a word, other times a sentence. And because that's the honest truth. Every piece of writing starts with a word. Sometimes you might write a sentence there, but most people are looking for that secret answer. They want to feel like there is something more, that there's something that they don't know. There's some trick that only someone who is studying creative writing learns about in literary courses, and there isn't that thing. There isn't. Literary courses don't teach you. They don't teach you some secret technique that only people who study creative writing learn, and only people who study creative writing figure out there isn't that kind of level of education out there. If there was, every author in the history of time would be using it, and it's not true. But people are constantly looking for shortcuts. People constantly want the quick fix. People want the miracle pill. They want the thing that's going to fix all their issues like that. They don't want to take the time. They don't want to hear that it's a long process. Same thing with doing anything worthwhile in your life. If you want to lose weight, people will tell you have to eat less, you have to go to the gym, you have to put in the time and the effort. And it's the same thing with writing. You have to put in the time and the effort. You have to read the books, you have to write the bad stories, you have to submit your work, you have to deal with rejection. It's just part of the writer's journey. And so you have to stop looking for shortcuts, stop looking for secret codes, secret miracle pills that are going to make your writing suddenly that of the quality of a New York Times bestselling author, suddenly that of Stephen King or some other well-known household name author. It just doesn't exist. Writing is a lifelong pursuit. And because of this, most people waste so much time. They waste so many years trying to crack the code, trying to find the shortcuts, when instead you could be actually dedicating yourself to studying the craft and studying the art of writing. You could be reading the books instead of just saying, no, there has to be some secret code, instead of trying to study trends. Studying trends is going to be a way for you to end up being burnt out as an author. Think about the time when everyone was publishing vampire fiction, when Twilight was very successful. No one's really publishing vampire fiction anymore that I'm aware of, at least not in the same scope that it was when Twilight was popular. And if you were an author who was like, oh, I'm going to jump on this train and this is my moment, where's all your work now? It hasn't stood the test of time, because you need to stop looking for shortcuts, stop looking for that miracle advice, because that miracle advice doesn't exist. You have to do the work, you have to be dedicated to the craft. And it might not be something that you want to hear. You might not want to hear that writing is difficult and writing is a challenge. Writing is hard for a lot of people. A lot of people are not able to write coherently. Writing is a skill that very few people possess. I'd say it's something that everyone can learn. It's something that everyone can develop, and everyone can get better at the craft of writing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this channel, because my channel is all about devoting videos, and I try and give the best, honest, hard truth that I can that's going to help you develop yourself as an author. But again, it's going to come down to you. You need to be willing to accept advice, and that's all it is. Advice. Even when editors edit work, even when I've had stuff published in magazines, it's all up to I have the final say. At the end of the day, if an editor says, I want to make this change to your work, I've had editors say, we love the entire story, but you need to change the ending. And at that point, I could have very much said, you know what, I don't want to change the ending. The ending is what I wrote it as, and I want it to stay that way. And they would have said, all right, then we're passing on your story. But I was willing to take their advice and willing to accept the fact that they needed the ending to be changed. And so you need to be willing to adapt your writing, and willing to take the advice and the suggestions of others. Especially if you're looking to enter into a creative writing program, or you're looking to study writing in a more formal level, you have to be willing to at least hear the comments in the room, because so much of your work is going to be done via workshop. It's going to be presenting stories and hearing the feedback from peers, hearing the feedback from that of your teachers, of your professors. And if you're just going to be closed off to all that feedback, all that writing advice, it's not going to do you any good. You have to be willing to change and willing to take some of the advice, but you don't have to take all of it. You don't have to throw out all of your own ideas in the sake of trying to mold your writing into something that it's not, trying to mold it into someone else's vision. So the big issue with writing advice is the fact that all my videos can be boiled down to very simple advice of read more and write more. And that's the hard truth, is You have to read more, you have to write more, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You're going to waste years and years and years of time trying to find that secret pill, that secret technique of every story has to have these elements. Every story has to have a love interest. Every story has to have a love triangle. Every story has to have an epic fight scene. Nothing like that exists in the world of writing. There is no color by numbers. Everything that meets this certain criteria is going to be published. Good writing is good writing because people have dedicated their lives to bettering themselves, and they have read hundreds and hundreds of thousands of books. And so the sooner that you start reading more, the sooner that you start writing more, the sooner your work will improve. And again, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years and years. I've been publishing for over 10 years at this point in time. I spent 7 years studying creative writing, 5 years in undergrad, and then 2 years for my master's program. And I'm still improving as an author. I'm still reading as much as I can. I'm still writing as much as I can, and I'm publishing. And I'm very proud of the work that I'm putting out. And every time that I publish a story, I look back at some of my old publications, and it's amazing to me how much I've improved just through the time of writing and editing my work and devoting so many hours of my life to this craft of writing. And that's what you have to do. At some point, you have to just stop. You have to stop seeking the advice and just say, I'm going to write as much as I possibly can. I'm going to read as much as I possibly can. And that's going to teach you the most that you possibly can learn in the act of writing. So the sooner that you start reading more, the sooner that you start writing more, and stop wasting your time searching for some secret formula that's going to make your work publishable. It doesn't exist. You have to just read a lot, write a lot, and that's all there really is to it. And so the advice that I try and give in this channel is very much, I try and give practical advice that's going to help you improve as an author. I'm trying to give you practical advice that I've seen on my own writing journey, that I've seen during my time of studying creative writing through traditional schools, going through undergrad, getting my BFA in writing, going to a graduate program and getting my master's degree in creative writing. And all of the videos that I try and put out, all the content that I put out is designed as advice. I would be very wary of anyone who says that this is the only way to write a story. If you don't write your story in this point of view, it's not going to sell. It's not going to do well. And so the advice that I give on this channel is very much more conversational. I try and give suggestions that are going to help push you in the correct way, because at the end of the day, you have to make the hard decisions about your writing. You have to decide what you enjoy about reading, what books you enjoy reading, what genre do you enjoy reading, what do you like about your own voice and your own style. And so these are all things that you will discover. The more reading that you do, the more writing that you do, you'll start to pick up on these trends. And so again, all my videos can be boiled down into those two simple pieces of advice of read more, write more, and you have to be as critical as you can, and you have to fall in love with the study of writing. So again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, make sure to hit like, subscribe, give me one of these. Let me know in the comments, have you still trying to find that secret miracle way to better your writing, because it doesn't exist. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and keep it spooky. And then, of course, here's your bonus for sticking around all the way to the end. It was a crisp fall day. John got out of his car, walked up the hill, and blank. So set your timer and start writing. Thank you so much.